Welcome to the show. I'm Danny Kanell alongside my guy Chris Manno. We got a fun show lined up for you. The NFL is in full swing, and there are some surprises early that we have to react to, including some big injury news as well. How does that impact the season? We shall discuss. Tom Brady is in the broadcast booth. We all knew that, but how ticked would you be if you're one of his opponents? We'll discuss that as well. Plus, major news in the UFC front. I don't even know some of the details, but my guy Manno said I will have my jaw dropping on the floor. But I want to check in with you, see how we're doing. You were at the Vault,
yes,
and it has been a very, very rough week. These are those weeks when you kind of reevaluate life and perspective, and it has been a rough week. And I know you were at the Vault with PBD and the fellas up there working in Orlando while all of it went down when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Mm-hmm. It's heavy, man. It's a heavy week.
Yeah, it was a rough, interesting, long, crazy week, 100%. Yeah, like you said, we were at the Vault. Like one of Pat's, probably one of the greatest moments of watching him. He was able to kind of really, his emotion and the way he was able to kind of just put that moment into perspective for an entire room of 10,000 was incredible. It was tough, and it doesn't seem to be getting easier. It remind me a lot of, honestly, it's the first time I felt like that since probably 9/11 being in New York. It was just an interesting week where, where we suffered an enormous tragedy, and you realize that like sports under normal circumstances are very trivial, but for the first time this week, that I was able to kind of not think about it for a little bit was Saturday and Sunday when we were able to kind of sit down and just free our minds. For people like me, that's a huge thing. It was a huge thing. And for the first time in a week to be able to take a deep breath and kind of just change directions in a little bit, it was important.
No doubt. It was similarly, and I felt this way after 9/11 because there was discussion, when would sports come back? Even during COVID, when sports were shut down, I was like, we desperately need sports.
Absolutely.
To bring unity, to bring perspective, and an escape. Like, as serious as these issues are, sports do provide escape for you. So I sent out some tweets, praying for Charlie Kirk. And then, what a tragedy it was. And I was crying. Like, I was in tears when I saw some of the videos, he and his daughters. Yeah. And I made the mistake of looking through my timeline and looking at some of the replies. Mm-hmm. And it was concerning. It was evil. It was all of this encompassing. I'm worried about my kids, what they're going to have to grow up in.
Sure.
And so I just kind of was like, I got to put this down. Social media in general. So I kind of stopped. I didn't post anything else for a couple days. And then Friday night, there were some college football games on. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, this is what we need, is some college football. And then NFL on Sunday, but needed sports to kind of just get my mind off it. There is one difference, I think, because I was in New York City on 9/11.
Same.
I was at the game when George W. Bush threw out the first pitch.
Amazing. Yeah.
One of the most patriotic moments you could ever have when he fires the strike right down the middle.
Yeah.
It's one difference, and I hate to even say this because it's a sad reflection of where we are now versus 2001.
Right.
After 9/11, it took a long time for people to pick sides and divide. Mm-hmm. Everyone came together.
Yeah.
Everyone was galvanized as it's us versus them, and them being the terrorists and the people that want to destroy our country, and we all came together. Mm-hmm. The thing that's scary about this one, and this really does concern me, is it's us versus each other. Mm-hmm. And that's where I've gone, is like, man, what does this mean big picture for where we are? And that's scary. Because you do see people picking sides, and it is getting more violent, and you do see the rhetoric amped up even more than it's ever been. And for me, that's scary. For as a father of 3 and kids that are in high school, and they're coming home saying, "Dad, did you see this video?" And I'm like, you're not supposed to see those types of videos when you're 13, 16, 18 years old. Like, it's just not normal for them to grow up in this type of environment. And it just has me on my knees. That's all I'm doing, is just praying.
Yeah, you said it best. Like, both tragedies, but very different, right? The first one was us against them. We kind of were able to band together as a whole, rely on your neighbor, use the person next to you to draw strength. And then again, we as a whole sort of really came back and felt like we were starting to surge. For me, again, because I was in New York, was when the Yankees came back and Mike Piazza hit a big home run for the Mets. It's the first time you kind of felt like, you know what, we are stronger than this. Together we can get through this. Whereas this one is super divisive, man. Now we got one side that is in mourning and crying, and the other side that's almost like gleeful and celebratory. And it's so interesting, man. We are such a country divided right now, and we need to find each other. We need to find love. We need to find common ground. And it's an interesting time for sure.
Before we dive into the actual sports, I did see this clip from Oregon's head coach, Dan Lanning, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for as a football coach. He's done a great job. But this was after his game, and he talked about the circumstances we've been under and how we could learn from a locker room.
There's been a lot going on in the country the last week. Have you addressed that with your team? How have you handled that?
Yeah. Talk about, I think the U.S. could learn a lot from our locker room. I think the people in this world can learn a lot from our locker room. You walk in that locker room, you got guys of different races, guys of different backgrounds, different religions, and you got a team that loves each other. Like tons of differences, where they come from, what they deal with, and ultimately you got a team that loves each other. And I think we're missing some of that in our country. You know, you talk about, I recently found out like Charlie Kirk was a Oregon fan, right? I didn't know that. I heard for his wife, Erica, and their kids, like that sort of evil should never exist in our country. And that's what it is, it's evil. Like, but I remember having to explain that to my family, right? I remember sitting down with my kids and explaining what happened, and they're talking about people talking about it at school, and it's just sad, right? But it's just as sad, you know, every day it seems like we deal with some sort of violence that's going on in our country, whether it's, you know, school kids in Colorado or kids in Minnesota at churches. I mean, life matters. You know, and I think we've lost sight of that. But I wish the world could learn a little bit of something from our locker room.
Amen. I've long held this belief, and I'm glad there was a coach that actually went out there and said it, because I've been in locker rooms that had incredibly different perspectives. You had conservatives, you had liberals, you had Christians, you had Jews, you had Muslims, you had poor backgrounds, wealthy backgrounds. You had everything under the sun in a locker room. And you know what happened? Sometimes there were heated arguments, like really heated. Guys would get fired up and yelling at each other and arguing over politics, because politics have always been divisive, right? But the one thing that we all knew was that we were brothers, and that we were all going to protect each other, and we were all going to look out for the best interest of the team. And we've lost that. It's become too tribal right now with the right versus the left, and we've lost the big picture of we're all in this together. And what scares me to death is I don't know if we can find that. I don't know if we can find, because on a football team or on a baseball team or whatever locker room, clubhouse you're in, there is a common goal of we want to win, right? We want to win. And too much in today's society, it's my side has to win and your side has to lose, but we're all playing for the same team. And we forget that so much at times like these. I hope Dan Lanning, his message is received, but I'm starting to lose hope in our ability to galvanize as United States of America in what is already become the divided states of America.
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is commend Dan Lanning, because he took something head on that's not an easy topic to talk about in sports and publicly today. If we let that clip run a little longer, he even takes some, perspective on a thing or two that aren't really. He stays in the middle somewhere, but he took on some things that aren't. You know the drill. It's easy to talk about stuff when it's the cool topic, when it's the popular topic. When it's something that's hairy that could get you into trouble, a lot of guys want to shy away from it. So kudos to him for stepping up. Along with what you're saying about the locker room and stuff, that's something that I think our perspective, and even I think my perspective in general, we've talked about it before. My position specifically, when you play at a D1 school, you get a sniff of the NFL or whatever. Not a lot of guys at my position look like me. So I was always like the outsider. But it's one thing, you're right, you don't realize it. When you guys are suffering through 95-degree sessions outside in summer, you're pulling each other through. Nobody's thinking about red or blue or liberal or conservative or guns or no guns. And the same thing when you're in the fourth quarter and it's hot and you got to dig down deep and pull the next guy up. It's so funny. You use the phrase a lot of times. I've done it on social media where I say, I'm being dead serious. I don't see... I mean, look, I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, I recognize that he's African-American or he's Spanish and I'm not. You know what I mean? But it's something you really don't realize in the locker room. Like, I noticed it maybe the first day. I dap a guy up. He looks different than me, and now we're on the same team. And it's something people do. It's very hard to realize in today's society that there are still places like that. And unless you've been inside one, that's why I think it makes it easier for us to see like there is a way out, but harder for me to come to grips with the way the world is, because I see people who are different than me and think like it's just they're different. We're cool. We're all the same though. Inside we bleed the same blood. We're on the same. You said it. We're on the same team.
Yeah, and Dan Lanning, as you mentioned, he also addressed things in a nuanced way, which seems impossible for a lot of people that talk about politics. Like, he talked about the issues that we face, and one of them's gun control, and one of them's mental health. And it's almost like if you're on the left, you have to cry out for gun control, and if you're on the right, you're calling out for mental health, when in reality, it's both. Like, they both are a significant problem. And yet nobody can address that from a right or a left, because you have to pick a side.
Well, and it's not just pick a side. It's have to pick every piece of your side.
Yes.
Like, you can't be 85% in on your liberal policies and be allowed to live. And you can't be, it can't be like I'm pro-life and this and that, and then my gun stance is different, because you almost have to be all in on one side or all in on the other side, or else you get eaten from the inside. And you're right, man. It's tough. Don't know how we're going to come through it. I am very much encouraged by these big demonstrations that are coming together. Yep. I got to be totally honest with you, man. I try to live a righteous life. I try to do the right thing. I try to be kind to people. I try to be honest. But, there was a time I was more faithful, where I spent more time with God and my faith. It was Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It was chapel every week. And I feel like some of my experiences, from something as simple as like my experience in the church growing up, my mother married my father, who was married prior, and then married my dad. So they always made my mom feel a little like she wasn't welcome. So little things like that have stuck with me. And I kind of found my way away from faith. And I think it's probably time I do a better job of, and maybe this doesn't happen if this doesn't happen. You know, like, I have a baby coming into the world. I'm so blessed and fortunate. I love my work that I get to come here and do every day. And I thought after last week, like, I'm not a big crier, but I think at 2 times, losing Kobe, I remember I was training athletes on the field, and after the session was done, I went up into my office, I put my head in my hands, and I just wept. And it was like, it just hit me different. And now this one, to think about a 31-year-old man whose children are going to grow up without a father, and a wife who's going to grow up without a husband. And it made me think, like, I needed something to pull me back. So maybe this is what does it. Maybe this is what, honestly, BizDoc, if you're listening, I've been thinking about you a lot lately, because you've done a fantastic job with it. And that's been my thought, man. Like, I try to live righteously, but it was more for my morals and my mom and pop, but not for the Lord. And now maybe it's time, with all this good stuff happening in my life, that I'm so fortunate, and to see that, that this is the time where a lot of people are coming out and doing it. Maybe it's a good time for a lot of us.
I heard Tom say, I think it was today on the podcast, today or yesterday, and he was saying love wins, and it will. Yeah. It will win out. And I think what you're talking about is a difference in religion, where, you get more into the tradition and the church as a routine, as opposed to relationship. And that's what we all need, is relationship with Jesus. That's what is the changing thing. And I noticed a lot more people in church, and I noticed people singing a lot louder and with a lot more emotion. And these times like these, that's what I rely on. It's my faith. I'm on my knees praying, saying, I don't know why this happened, but God, I know you're in control.
Right.
And good for Dan Lanning for speaking up there.
Absolutely.
Go Ducks. They're pretty good, by the way, too. They might have a chance to win it all. All right, let's go on to the NFL. Let's have some fun, because that's what people are here for, to listen to some football talk. The NFL is off to a crazy start. It's the best soap opera that's out there. It's the best reality TV show that exists, and it has provided some surprising storylines, including, I'll just give you a list, okay? 0-2 teams. You tell me which ones are the surprises. Bears, 0-2. Not a huge shock. Giants, 0-2. Sadly, not a huge shock. Saints, don't have a quarterback. Not a huge shock. Panthers, 0-2. Titans, 0-2. Texans, a little bit of a surprise. They're 0-2. And then you have the
Jets.
Kansas City Chiefs that are 0-2 as one of the biggest surprises. Now, you had them. Did you have them winning? I know you had them in the Super Bowl. Did you have them winning the Super Bowl in your preseason predictions?
I didn't have them.
I don't want to dunk on you yet. It's early.
I didn't had them. I have them.
That's right. Oh, you're not giving up on them.
No, it's the regular season, dude. I don't care what happens in September. Right now, Patrick Mahomes doesn't look great. He hasn't played a game with his receivers yet. And this is the moral of Patrick Mahomes, right? Look, Trav made a huge mistake. That's a touchdown going in. If he pulls on it, then the whole game changes. He loses Xavier Worthy, right? Hollywood Brown is just consistently banged up, and he lost his number one guy, Rashee Rice, who's going to catch 100 balls for him for for 6 games. So I think when that comes back together, look, again, nobody cares. As long as you're in the tournament, Patrick Mahomes has shown that he can win on the road. He always finds a way. As long as that Andy, I told you before, as long as that Andy, Pat, and Trav kind of triumvirate is there, I feel comfortable with them. They know how to win games. They've done it a million times. But I'm not going to lie and say that I'm not concerned about Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert is nasty coming out of the gate like an MVP candidate. He's got Keenan Allen back. Quentin Johnston looks like the first-round pick that he was, projected to be. A lot of people gave up on him so quick. Dude, he looks like a man out there now. And yeah, that they look to be a team to beat in that division for sure.
So here's what concerns me about the Chiefs.
Okay.
Because they've had so much success, I don't think there's any panic for the Chiefs. And sometimes panic is good because it brings a sense of urgency. And I've been on some really good teams that you start slow, everybody's criticizing you, and you just you're like, oh, these people are overreacting. They don't know what they're talking about. Like, we'll be fine. And I'm with you. I think the Chiefs will be fine. I think they'll make the playoffs. But I am a little bit concerned because what really made them was, the big plays and the speed that was on the outside.
Sure.
And it feels like the NFL has definitely adapted, and you're seeing so much more shell coverage, like cover 4 or 2 deep, where they're like, we'll let you drive the length of the field. We're going to keep everything in front of you, and we're just not going to give up the big play. And it's really testing Patrick Mahomes' patience.
Right, but I would say that was a worry for me if they didn't go on and win 2 Super Bowls after Cheetah left. Because who else did they have? McCole Hardman was their other burner, and they weren't hitting him down the field a ton.
Agreed.
It's been a lot of what worries me is Trav's drop-off.
So that's
right?
my point, right? He's getting older. He looks 35.
Yeah, I know. That's a little scary for me. But you hope that you can rely upon the things that I think help you win when playoffs come is experience. It's Andy Reid. It's Steve Spagnuolo. It's guys who have been there before, and you hope that they can kind of impress upon the rest of the locker room. Now you got Karlaftis is going to kind of come into his own and hopefully take on a bit more of a leadership role. That's the beauty of. So I grew up a Jets fan, obviously in New York, and my default setting was always, they're ahead right now, okay, but something's going to go wrong and they'll find a way to lose. The beautiful thing about getting to watch Pat in his first 8 or 9 seasons is I've always felt the opposite. For oddly, as odd as it sounds, I felt until like middle of the 3rd quarter in that Super Bowl, he'll find a way. He'll find a way. So I guess I tend to still think that based upon 8 years of AFC championship games.
It's all he's known.
Yeah,
that's all Patrick Mahomes has played in his AFC championship games. Like, that's his worst season.
Yeah, and he looks good moving. He looks healthy. I think he's got a little like piss and vinegar in him that a lot of people, like when we talk top 5 quarterbacks right now, they're talking Lamar, they're talking Josh Allen, they're talking Joe Burrow, they're talking Jalen Hurts. A lot of people aren't even mentioning
Justin
Mahomes.
Herbert's in that conversation.
Herbert, right.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to get – he's 29 years old. He's not washed yet, and I think a lot of people – I think the offensive line will tighten up. They got a left tackle who's a rookie. They got a couple of guys they're shuffling in and out on the rest of the line. I think they'll figure it out, and they'll lean back on what's gotten them there a bunch of times. But talk about some of the other surprises on the other end.
Yeah.
Right? Me and you were talking about – I'd love to get your idea. Colts 2-0. Daniel Jones is playing incredible, almost 600 yards through 2 weeks and no turnovers. Can you tell me about that? Is it just a change of scenery, you think?
All of it. I think this was the best thing that could have happened to Daniel Jones, was getting out of New York. New York is a really unique place to play, and you don't really understand it unless you've lived it and experienced it firsthand. I played at Florida State, so it was big-time college football. We were number 1 in the country, and so we were on ESPN a lot. We were on national TV a lot. People talked about us a lot.
Sure.
And so I remember people asking me, like, are you ready for New York? And I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. Like, I've already had all this pressure. And I remember after a practice at Florida State, and this is like only if we were playing Miami or Florida or Notre Dame or a big team, there would probably be 8 or 9 like media members and a little scrum after practice, like beat writers from Jacksonville, Fort Lauderdale, South Florida, South Georgia.
Sure.
So there'd be some coverage there. And I was like, I'm used to these scrums. In New York, I go and it's like 3 deep, like 20, 25. And everyone's looking to get that headline that stands out or to get the quote that they can run with. That's going to go, at the time, it wasn't viral, but it was going to get a lot of traction.
Be on the back page.
Yeah, it was going to be on the back page. Exactly.
Right.
So I think made it incredibly challenging for Daniel Jones. It started with his draft selection where he was drafted way too high. I still think Gettleman was wrong, and he would have dropped to 16 or 17, whatever their second pick in the first round was. That would have made more sense for them. So because he was drafted higher, he had these massive expectations set on him. And I do think he's the type of player, and he's proven this even with the Giants, when you give him good talent around him, he can win.
Yeah.
And so finally he goes there, and it was clearly exposed toward the end because when Saquon was healthy, they were pretty good. When his offensive line blocked, he was pretty good. He goes to a place that has a pretty good run game with Jonathan Taylor.
Very good.
He goes to an offensive coach in Shane Steichen, who is pretty good. I thought he would start over Anthony Richardson, who looks like it's going to be a bust. And he's playing with a ton of confidence because he's playing free. The expectations have completely changed for Daniel Jones, so he doesn't have to hear, oh, well, he's a bust or he's a letdown. Now he's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and I've had that battle with guys in this building about, is Daniel Jones going to start this year? Can Daniel Jones play in the NFL? And being in New York and being able to watch him at his best, I thought his ceiling after that first year, I said Brian Daboll came over from Buffalo. He had a 6'5", athletic quarterback, 230 pounds, turned out to be Josh Allen. The first year, it looked like Daniel Jones was trending in that direction, right? He was rushing for 700 yards. He would pick you apart if you gave him the throw, and he did it all without a real number one receiver, right? He had Saquon Barkley. They gave him Neighbors in his last year, but Neighbors was young, and Daniel Jones was already on his way out the door. I'm telling you, man, you do the right thing with this kid. He's not, if he doesn't make mistakes, he figured out kind of his fumbles problem, which was a big thing in the beginning of his career. But yeah, it's a lot lighter in Indianapolis, man. The lights aren't so bright. You can kind of get lost in the shuffle there, and just don't make mistakes and go win you a division, man.
Yeah,
you know?
And he might. And it's only 2 games. It's only 2 games.
Sure.
But sometimes a change of scenery is exactly what a quarterback needs.
Right.
You need a new locker room that looks at you differently. You need a new opportunity, a new support staff. And I wouldn't think it's crazy. Again, it's early. It's 2-0. But we've seen Sam Darnold do it.
Yep.
We've seen Baker Mayfield do it. Geno Smith do it. We've seen it. Sometimes it takes time for it to click.
Right.
And we're so impatient as sports fans, and especially when it's your guy and you take a first-round pick on him, you want him to be good right away. Yeah. And sometimes I think it's the right move. Like, I actually thought for the Giants to part ways with Daniel Jones was the right move.
Yeah.
Like, I think it made sense for everybody. And it just, sometimes for a quarterback, it clicks at a different time. And hopefully it clicks for Daniel Jones this time around.
And I don't know how much evidence you have to see of it that these young quarterbacks, when you don't rush them in immediately and you let them bake a little bit, like we've seen it happen with Patrick. We saw it happen with Aaron. We're seeing it happen with Jordan Love right now. Maybe you don't rush him in right away. Let him catch. I really hope the Giants do this with Russell and Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart showed me some things in the preseason. Obviously, it was against 2s and 3s. Do I think he's going to be Tom Brady? I don't think so yet. But do I think that there's something there? Yeah, let this kid get comfortable. Let this kid acclimate a little. Let him play against the ones in practice. And then, we talked about it already. I'm not into forcing these guys in right away so that you can see what you have, but then you ruin them at the same time if they're not the guy. You know what I mean?
Preseason is the biggest fallacy out there.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're playing against 2s and 3s. But I think even more importantly, you're playing with a playbook.
Yeah, half a playbook.
That is maybe a third of a playbook.
And against defenses that they don't want to show.
They're only playing some very basic coverages. When you get to the regular season, all of a sudden you're getting an entirely new game plan that is twice as big with a lot of new plays and new concepts because they're drawing up things, and it changes week to week. Yeah. And the defenses are game planning for you specifically. People don't realize, because there have been so many players that have been preseason Hall of Famers, and then they get to the regular season, everybody's like, what happened? It's a totally different ballgame. So this, unfortunately, if you're a Giants fan or if you're a fan of another team that you want to play a young quarterback right now, you kind of have to trust the staff.
And the last thing I'll say about Daniel Jones in particular is he seems like, and it's a big thing in sports, man. We talk about it, but it's a confidence thing. When he was playing really well, he was a different guy in the media. He was like, he grew the beard out a little bit. Yeah. He was talking to Kay Adams, kind of risen her up a little bit. Yes. And now, like, I heard him get interviewed after these first 2 games, and he seems like that again. He doesn't seem like that deer in headlights with the messy hair and the broken spirit. He seems like, I'm good here. I'm comfortable here. Like, and not having, maybe really Anthony Richardson was that bad where you're not worried about having a bad game. That's a big deal.
Right.
When you go in there knowing one mistake is going to get me right back to the bench or get the fans right down my neck, it's a tough way to play. You know what I mean?
Confidence is the most important thing in all of sports, but even more specifically for a quarterback, you have to believe in yourself. And you can't fake that. So when everybody's telling you how garbage you are, everybody in the media is trashing you, your own fans are booing you, it is human nature to have your confidence shaken. Right. So that's why, you need a change of scenery to get out of there. So I think playing quarterback is probably 80% mental,
Yeah.
15% confidence, excuse me, 80% confidence, 15% mental preparation, and 5% physically what you can do. Because when you get to this level, when you are a first round pick, you can make all the throws.
Yeah.
You're physically impressive because you've been taking, like you've been through the gauntlet of the combine and you've been, poked and prodded. You've got the tools to do it. So you've got to lose that. And when that 80% of which is confidence, gets chipped down to where it becomes a fraction of who you are, that's when you see quarterbacks' careers completely derailed.
Let me ask you this, and I know we have to probably move soon, but talk to me about how they say in sport, and I've done it myself. It says, good or bad, forget the last play. How do you feel like that? You feel like I feel like when I'm in a zone, I'm playing good, I had the best game I've ever had, I'm 150 yards in, and I'm like, I don't want to forget the last play. I was rolling.
Right.
So that's such an interesting dynamic. They talk about that a lot, though. If good or bad, forget the last play, move on.
I agree. My dad used to tell me never get too high with success or too low with adversity. So you can't get too caught up in your last play if you threw a touchdown, but I do feel like it carries over. And you have that confidence of coming. That's why I'm a big believer in the first 15 plays that you drop in a game, give them some completions. Give your quarterback some easy completions. If it's a screen, if it's a little quick hitch, something to at least see the ball go into the
receiver's hand.
And then you can kind of start in the rhythm of the game. The hardest thing to do is to forget the last one. Like you have to have such a short memory, but it's that human nature, that doubt that creeps in, and you're like, man, I haven't completed a pass yet. I'm 0 for 5 to start the game. Like, what are we doing?
And then though, and this has happened, I'm sure, to both of us, is it's never as bad as you think, never as good as you think. Like, I've had games where I'm like, that's the worst game I've ever played.
Right.
And then I'll watch the film, and I'm like, well, I blocked really hard. You know what I mean? I got a couple of tough yards here. And then there's games where I thought I was the man. And I was like, 3 touchdowns, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You've probably done too. You threw for 400 yards. And then you're like, oh, crap, I missed that. I made a bad read here. I left these points on the field, right?
No doubt. Always happens that way. Other teams, surprising to the downside. I don't know if it's too much of a shock, but the Dolphins, 0-2. The way they played against Indy in week 1 and then losing at home in week 2. And then this explanation from Mike McDaniel has me scratching my head. Have a listen.
To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game, honestly. And that is how you lose the game. You're moving the ball down the field. You're 1st and 10, and then you find yourself at 2nd and 20.
What? What are we talking about?
That's a broken man, Danny.
It is, but you know what? So I'll give him this. It's who he is.
Yeah.
He is a mercurial,
quirky
coach. I mean, he's always done that. I think he's a real fun coach.
Yeah.
But I think that's a part of the problem because I think the fun coach is the one that the players walk on.
Yeah.
And I think he's lost the locker room and their respect for a head coach.
Right.
Like there is no fear of Mike McDaniel. And I think there always has to be a healthy fear of a head coach that if I don't listen to him, if I don't do what he's saying, if I don't prepare the way I'm supposed to, maybe I'll get cut. Maybe I'm not going to be his best friend. Maybe I'm going to find myself looking for work. I don't think anybody has that fear anymore. And even more so, we were just talking about confidence. I think Tua is somebody who is once again struggling with his confidence because at the end of the Brian Flores tenure from Miami, Brian Flores called him out publicly in front of the locker room. And Tua has admitted that it crushed his confidence and it really almost derailed his career. Now he's got a coach who remember the conversation on the FaceTime when Mike McDaniel's like, I'm here to help you and I'm going to make you great. And he was for a while. With Tua struggling early this season with interceptions, he had a few bad throws against Indy. I think Tua's confidence is shot.
Yeah.
And I have serious doubts about whether Mike McDaniel and this regime, because I think it's Chris Greer as well, I don't think they survive the season.
I mean, the way it's looking so far, it doesn't look
They were
promising.
already on the hot seat kind of coming in.
Your star players are always acting. I mean, Tyreek Hill, is he in? Is he out? Is he happy? Is he pissed? You know what I mean? And then, and Tua's made some quotes over the last – something came out right before we aired where he's like bigging up Josh Allen, but he almost like demeans himself at the same time. Like, he's twice the runner I am, or I can do half the things he does running. And I'm like, you can't be telling people that. And then he had that quote to Tyreek Hill where he's like, I don't think I can get the ball out there for you, so be ready to stop on it. And it's like, it may be true, but you can't say that. You know what I mean? You put a bad taste in the receiver's mouth that way. Like,
I feel like Tua and Tyreek's relationship is, if it's not broken, it's severely damaged because Tyreek at the end of last year said, get me out of here.
Yeah.
He wanted to see a trade. Yeah. And for the first time, I was actually proud of Tua because he didn't just bow down to Tyreek and say, sure, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I asked him about it. I talked to Tua during training camp, and he was like, no. He's like, this is something that has to be rebuilt and only takes time.
Right.
And now that the season's starting 0-2 and you're not finding that same rhythm and the ability to get Tyreek the ball, I wonder how that locker room is unfolding right now.
Well, Tyreek did go for 100 this week, but the rest of the guys are like their numbers are way down.
Right.
And it's I've actually heard rumor. Obviously, we don't know, but we were just talking about it before about Patrick getting that burner back. I was hearing rumors about him maybe going back.
Yeah.
And I don't know how true that is. But the thing with Tyreek is he's a mercurial one, like you said.
Yeah.
It's never too long where he's happy and content and quiet. So I take whatever he says with like a grain of salt, like the same as he was ready to get out of there.
But it
he
does wear on you. After a while, it's like, all right, is the juice worth the squeeze with Tyreek Hill? Like, yeah, you're great and you can get me all these catches, but is it worth having to listen to you chirp to the media, to ask for trades, to get arrested before a game, to be a story off the field all off season? Like, at some point, the production isn't worth it.
And we've seen it happen to, and Tyreek Hill is, there's probably 12 receivers better than Tyreek Hill ever, but we've seen it happen to the likes of Terrell Owens. Where's that his welcome?
Antonio
Randy
Brown.
Moss. Where's that his welcome? Antonio Brown. Where's that his welcome? And if those guys can be moved, Tyreek Hill can be moved. It does. It gets stale. It gets tiring. And having a harmonious locker room in football and in the NFL of all places is vital.
All right, are you ready for the NFL MVP? I'm going to tell you who it's going to be right now. It is not going to be Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
It is not going to be Josh Allen. It is not going to be Justin Herbert.
Oh, okay.
It is going to be Baker Mayfield.
Oh, I like
Baker
that.
Mayfield is such a great story. And we were talking about the ability to believe in yourself.
Yes.
Because he lost his confidence early. And he was good for Cleveland. His rookie year sets a record for rookie touchdown passes, takes him to the playoffs. Then there's all these rumblings in the locker room that it was an issue. He gets cut, goes to Carolina. It's a disaster. Goes to the Rams. He has that one moment where he's there for 5 days and has an unbelievable performance on primetime.
That moment won me for Baker. I love Baker at Texas Tech. I loved him at Oklahoma.
Yep.
I just love the stones on him because that is, I mean, from my quarterback, that's what I want. I like the quiet, go about his business, handle it, blah, blah, blah. I like a little nuts on my quarterback.
He's got big ones.
He sure does.
How about, I mean, his
and he's like
performance-
6 feet tall.
Yeah, he's not that
He'll
big.
fight anybody.
He'll do anything. So a couple things from last night's game because they just had the big win last night against the Texans. Once again, has his team trailing in the fourth quarter, marches them down the field, puts on an absolute clinic without a lot of his offensive line. He's got a banged up offensive line. He's been hit all game. He just had a chain ripped from his neck.
Yeah.
In fact, the one run, which was insane, was when he goes down and he gets hurt, right? And he grabs his ankle.
Oh, yeah.
And then who was it?
C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yes. And then he's chirping at him. And what does Baker do? All of a sudden, the injury
I'm not
doesn't
hurt no
matter.
more.
The adrenaline rushes and he pops right back up and he
I
gets
love
in his
him.
face. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going out.
I love him.
And then on top of it, he marches his team down the field again. Some of the stats they were putting up last night, the fourth quarter numbers and the amount of fourth quarter and overtime touchdowns, the most in the NFL since he joined the Bucs. He is legit. Last year he had 41 touchdown passes. That was second in the NFL. Joe Burrow was the only one that had more. I think they win the division. I think they're a playoff team. Baker Mayfield is going to be the surprise MVP of the 2025 season.
I actually love that. And his teammates love him. And he's got 10 of those moments that I can go back and think of. It was Rams, and I think it was Rams. He came in on Thursday and won a game on Sunday, which is just so absurd to think about.
Yes, it was like 4 days. He
It
didn't
was
even know
crazy.
the plays.
Shouldn't know the plays.
Right.
We're going to talk about something later where he probably didn't even know all his teammates, and I'm sure we'll get to something like that a little later, which is a pretty funny clip. But he's one of those guys, intrinsic motivation, and don't piss him off because you remember the game at Oklahoma where he went to midfield and he's trying to be mature to shake Kansas's hand, and Kansas stares at him, and you could see his eyes here, his ears perk up, and he's going, "Oh." And now that's what I needed. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
And he proceeds to just take them apart.
That was when he grabbed his nutsack, I think, right?
No, that was crazy.
That's
Yeah,
what
that
he
was
did
that's
right before the
immature
game.
Baker.
It was.
He's
and
going
he
up a
planted
little
the flag
down.
at Ohio State,
Yeah.
hey, if you don't plant the flag, then stop him from what he's doing.
He's another guy who's found faith, I think, and it helped
he
him
absolutely
mature a
has.
little. And
Yep.
now he's finally settling it. Like you said, he's in that groove now, like right where he needs to be.
I think his faith, his newfound faith, because I saw him on I think it was Sports Spectrum. He was talking about his faith and how he had hit rock bottom.
Right.
And he said that's what he needed was to hit rock bottom. It put things in perspective, made him turn back to his faith. And he's like, it's turned around everything. It's turned around his marriage. It's turned around his career. It's turned around his life as in the whole. And that's why I find myself rooting for him. But I think he's really, really playing outstanding football right now.
Incredible. Just a perpetual overachiever, only walk-on to ever go first overall, win a Heisman, the whole nine. He's been incredible since college. I always loved his style, and I'm excited to watch him. I think it's a great pick.
He's been awesome. Somebody who I thought preseason was going to be the MVP and now is out of the race because he's hurt.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow goes down with turf toe. Have you ever had turf toe?
I think I did a little bit in cotton, never to the extent where it put me out. But
Right.
it's funny because it sounds like it should be like a gross infection or something.
Right.
But my understanding is it's really just like a little tear in a ligament.
But it's
above your big toe.
incredibly painful.
Yeah.
Everybody I've talked to, I never had it. I never
Yeah.
ran enough. I wasn't fast enough to get turf toe. Everybody I've talked to said it's so
rough.
painful. So now he's down again. Do we have the injury history of Joe Burrow? Because he is missing a lot of time. He's already had an ACL.
Yeah.
He had the finger in 2021.
Yeah.
He had the MCL sprain. Remember the weird hand
wrist
thing?
thing.
Yeah, the wrist
Yeah,
that he
he
was
was
trying
out.
to cover up. And
Throwing on the sideline, you could see him in
So
agony.
here's what worries me about Joe Burrow. And I've said this about other quarterbacks in the past, and it's gotten me in trouble. Some guys' bodies aren't built for the NFL.
Okay.
I had Carson Wentz as a player who I thought his body wasn't built. Andrew Luck finally realized his body wasn't built for the NFL. It has nothing to do with toughness. Nothing. Because I just said Joe Burrow is a tough SOB.
Right.
He's plays through a ton. Some guys, for whatever reason, call it injury prone. I don't know what it is. They bad luck, whatever it is. They're just not built for the NFL. And that's starting to worry me about Joe Burrow because the injuries are starting to stack up. And this is his prime.
Right.
And you've got a quarterback who you very clearly can win a Super Bowl with, and he's missing almost 50% of his time.
Yeah, you mentioned a guy who I think we get a lot of Andrew Luck vibes, right? Through 5 years, Andrew Luck retired at 29, played 70 games, and he was sacked 156 times, and it was just a massive number. Well, Joe Burrow, through the same 5 seasons, through 69 games, has been sacked 196 times. So he's 40 sacks more. I would love to continue on what you just said. Now, explain to me, for a guy like Andrew Luck, who's 6'3", 6'4", 235, 240 pounds, how is that body? You think he's a big, strong Hulk? Explain how that's a body that's not made for the NFL versus another 6'3" body that's 230. That's
Baker Mayfield's not jacked.
No,
he
he's
hasn't
not.
struggled with injuries. I mean, Tom Brady was not that thick.
Yeah.
Remember, he was into elasticity, and his combine video goes viral because he doesn't look. He's got bad body.
Even a Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, he's not hurt a ton for a guy who used to run all over the place.
Right.
He plays a lot.
He plays a
and
ton.
he's 5'10",
Right.
and 205 pounds,
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know how to explain it. That's why I don't know if it's just bad luck, if it's somehow your bone structure is not as strong as others.
Yeah.
It's just, for whatever reason, some guys have a knack for survival and others don't. I think it's egregious. The
Manning brothers were always great. I mean, both of them played an insane, until Peyton's neck, I think he played like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then Eli would have played his entire career if they didn't, just sit him for that one crazy
He had
game.
the incredible streak that he had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's something that you cannot measure at the combine, or else you would see guys avoid this. I do wonder, some guys fall differently. And I think there's almost an advantage to being like that pocket passer, like an Eli or Peyton, when you know you're going to get sacked, you kind of just go down. You don't try. And Burrow's athletic. Like, he can get out of trouble. But I think it's egregious that the Bengals have done so little to help him on the offensive line. Granted, they paid Jamar Chase and they paid T. Higgins, and they've tried to pay some of their best talent, but they have not done a good job of showing that offensive line.
100% agreed. And then there's definitely something to what you're talking about being able to take a hit and knowing how to take a hit properly. That's a guy like Russell, right? Russell, you think a guy like Robert Griffin III, who was a freak of nature athlete, but I felt like once a week I'd watch him get popped, and I'm like, this guy's not going to last. A guy like Cam by 31 was pretty much done because he never shied away from getting hit. And that's what I think Russ does well. Russ gets down. Russ knows how to roll properly. And these are things.
Yeah.
Right?
You know
These
who
are
else
things.
does?
Who?
Lamar.
Oh, of course.
Lamar has that
Of course.
little, and it's like a subtle, it's the tiniest thing. I played with Warwick Dunn, a running back.
Yeah.
He had a knack for, at the last minute,
I'm
when
down.
he knew, and he would shift his body, would contort his body, so you never got that big hit. When was the last time you saw Lamar get
That's
crushed? You don't.
I saw a clip on Twitter over the weekend of Tyler Lockett, a real small receiver. He's gone into his 10th year now. He never misses time. And it's so, like, people look at it from the outside and they're like, look at this guy shying away from contact because it's not sexy and doesn't look cool to the fans. But you live to play another play. And when you're a smaller guy like that, getting down and doing just that, live to fight again, man. You know what I mean? It's not, you don't got to be a hero out there like that.
I hate it. I don't think Joe Burrow has to retire early because I don't think he will. I think Andrew Luck is such a unique personality.
Yeah,
that's why he hung it up. I think Joe Burrow will keep going. I just hope they keep him healthy because I want to see him out there. He's incredibly talented. I also worry that he's the next Dan Marino. because Dan Marino went to a Super Bowl in his second year in the league and never went back. I have that fear for Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen before. I hope they give him the help and the support that he needs, and I hope he gets back healthy.
Yeah, we've had discussions like in-house here about like it's like the Michael Jordan thing and the Patrick Mahomes thing, and like it's about keeping guys from rings.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's been something Patrick's had a knack for, other than like Jalen Hurts, right? Nobody else has gotten rings on his watch.
Yeah.
You know? And
Speaking of somebody who doesn't take hits, he's been incredible.
Jalen Hurts,
and he
right.
might just keep racking up the rings at the rate he's going.
Can we talk about something really quick, though,
Yeah.
and we can keep it moving? Did you see that picture? And look, I thought the Chiefs were going to lose anyway, so it didn't really break me up, but dude, they had 7 guys offside on that tush push.
Yeah.
I mean, the center's whole body, and he's moving first. Did you hear what Mike Pereira or Blandino, one of the guys who are the refs, said? This game wasn't won today. This game was won when the owners decided not to ban the tush push.
The tush push is the worst thing that's happened in the NFL.
Yeah.
It is a stupid play that is not football. It is rugby.
Yeah.
That being said, you got to stop it. Like I don't think you outlaw it, because I think it's like a lot of things. I hope it's a trend. Like, remember the Wildcat?
Of course.
Remember the Dolphins actually started. They started doing it because they had such bad quarterback issues. Then everybody starts copycatting them.
Yeah.
Then guess what? Everybody stops it, and so it phases out slowly over time.
Yeah.
No one's stopping this, but the way to stop it is to actually call the penalty when they are offsides.
Yeah, well, that would be fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, they weren't even offsides. The center's moving. Like, there's
Right.
5 things I could have called there before.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You mentioned on the broadcast,
Yeah.
there was also a broadcast with one Tom Brady,
Yes.
who I think he's taken strides forward. I know he took a lot of heat in his first year as a broadcaster. I think he's gotten better.
Sure.
But there is something that is unfolding, which I think is an incredible conflict of interest, and that is Tom Brady in the booth, but not necessarily what happens when he's in the booth. It's what happens when he's in preparation, because as a broadcaster, you get incredible access to your opponents. You get to talk to the other teams, you get to talk to the team's opponent, and you get to talk to all these coaches. And then after he's broadcasting a game, goes back where he's a 5% minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's on the headset during the game talking to the coaches, providing insight. He meets with Chip Kelly 2 to 3 times a week to help game plan. It's an incredible conflict of interest that I think must drive a lot of teams nuts.
It has to drive a ton of teams nuts. Let's go back to Tom Brady's career. He's never been a guy who's been completely like on the right side of a scandal. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not out of the realm to think that he might utilize this. Think about just coming up now. The Raiders play the Bears in week 4, and he's scheduled to call the Cowboys and the Bears in week 3. So all the coaches that he's going to get access to and learn about these plays and learn about the intricacies of their offense, you got to think how much of the Bears really going to give him.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't give him a ton.
I do when he had his contract, because he's making $350 million with Fox.
Yeah, for sure.
And when he bought a portion of the Raiders, I do think there was something that came out that said he wasn't going to have traditional access to the other coaches.
And
like
that was last year. They had special rules where he wasn't allowed to be in these meetings.
Because if I'm Ben Johnson with the Bears, there's zero chance I'm meeting with him.
The NFL relaxed those rules this year. So now he's able to be inside these meetings. And
if I'm the Bears or any opponent, like
don't
that's
come talk to me this
week.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I got nothing for you.
Sorry, but not sorry. Just say, you know what? It's too much of an advantage. I'm not giving you personnel insights and injury insights, things that you can use the very next week.
And check this out. I was even thinking about, if he goes and sits with players, maybe a player is a free agent next year. And Tom Brady, under normal owner circumstances, can't talk to these players because it's tampering, right?
Yeah.
He's not allowed to talk to these players till after the season's over. If I'm Tom Brady and I go sit down with a receiver, and maybe he's pissed. Maybe he doesn't love his situation. You're talking to the greatest player of all time. I'm going to use my influence as Tom Brady to say, yeah, man, I don't like how they could probably use you here or do that with you this year. Come to the Raiders next year. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You ever think about that?
Absolutely. There are way too many conflicts of interest. Although
absolutely,
he is Tom Brady. He's making a lot of money. I don't think anything changes except the way other teams approach it. And I would expect him to get a lot of treatment where he gets a silent treatment or he gets a cold shoulder, and I don't blame him.
We've heard of the Jordan rules, right?
Yeah.
Brady, that's the drill with everything, though. You get special privileges when you're a special, type of player or a type of, personality.
Did you see Tom Brady's playing flag football?
I did see that. I love it.
Is he going to have to beat out Rajon Rondo for a starting quarterback of the 2028 U.S. Olympics?
Rajon Rondo was throwing darts around.
He looked good because I think he fits the game better than Tom Brady does. But if you don't know, Tom Brady and a lot of other NFL legends and 3 NFL coaches are going to be playing in a flag football game over in Saudi Arabia, which will be interesting. What do you think the number is? I'm saying $10 million is what Brady gets to go play one game over there.
Well, those Saudi Arabia, they have like unlimited funds over there. Like you look at,
what's his number to say no? Okay, now I'm good.
I don't think Tom Brady needs another nickel for the rest of his life.
But he's getting them, and he's got that type of leverage. He can say no.
I'm telling you, man, we've talked about this a little bit. Like, my guilty pleasure is WWE. And I watch some of these shows. They just signed a deal to do WrestleMania over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia or something like that. It's because the money is different. Like, they've got guys who haven't wrestled in like 15 years. They're old and decrepit and on their couches now. And these Saudi Arabian, like, oil guys or whatever they are, they'll throw $15 million at a Brock Lesnar to come off the couch and just be an attraction over there.
Their fund, I forget the name of the fund, but it's like $600 or $700 million.
It's absurd. Oh yeah, they have like a Saudi sports fund or something like that.
It's $600 or $700 billion.
Yeah.
It's
I've heard them talk
unlimited.
about it on PBD. I think a little bit.
They just be careful. They just better be careful that they don't start a flag football league that takes on the NFL, because a lot of those NFL players would bail just like the golfers did for
Live. Of course,
yes, they
That's
would.
so funny. That's great. That's a great observation. Yeah.
All right, you had some news, so I want to get into this because this is awesome.
Yeah.
UFC. We've all known about this card that was going to take place around the country's, what is it?
250th.
Yeah, 250. What's the name? It's not bicentennial. Whatever the name is for the 250th birthday celebration that's going to place in D.C. There were some details that were revealed. So the only thing that I really knew and the thing I was most interested in was Conor McGregor. Is he going to fight or is he not? So he's been confirmed, right?
Well, nobody's been confirmed yet, but he's done things that make you think he's been kind of flirting with running for president of Ireland for the last, and he's actually was getting some steam up. He seemed to kind of clean himself up the last couple of months, but it came out yesterday that he's going to kind of withdraw from that, which tends to make you think further that he's interested in this. And guys like John Jones have been clamoring to get on a card like this, and Dana White has said over and over again, I appreciate it. John Jones has called me to apologize for his past discretions, but I got to get guys that I trust on this card, and Conor's proven to me that he can be trusted when it comes to showing up and making the walk, right? John Jones hasn't done just that. Let's talk about some of these details because they're absurd. First of all, we talked about how many people can you actually get at the White House? Well, Dana White is talking about 5,000 on the south lawn of the White House, invite only. And then apparently they have this massive park around the corner that they're going to house 85,000. And 85,000 are going to watch it on screens. They're going to kind of take over Washington for a week. They're going to do concerts. They're going to do fairs. They're going to do festivals all in Washington, D.C.
Unreal.
All right? Craziest part of this, weigh-ins and walkouts start in the Oval Office.
Come on.
So where under normal circumstances, you see these guys getting loose in the background and they start to make the walk. The music starts to play. The lights go down. The smoke starts to come. And these guys are going to make the move from the Oval Office to the cage.
Way.
And it's supposed to be, I mean, how crazy is that? How crazy? It's such sacred ground, right?
No doubt. And Trump, who is one of the best showmen that's out there. I mean, that's just, so that's like, I think it's the Resolute desk where like, that's the desk where they signs all the bills. So it's going to happen right there. What happens? Because we see it all the time when all of a sudden guys start shoving and there's like a mayhem that goes like, I wonder if that potentially could happen in the Oval Office.
Anything
could you
could happen.
That? Anything
And with these two guys, Trump and Dana White, the best promoters ever, maybe, two of the best.
Oh my gosh.
And then rumored fighters for the card, Conor, Michael Chandler, Sean Strickland, wild man.
Yeah.
Israel Adesanya, Tom Aspinall, Colby Covington. He's an American, big American guy, and Nate Diaz. So a lot of stars, man. They're going to bring out all the big guns. It should be fun. I've talked to you about this before.
Yeah.
I'm pretty shocked that Dana White's going to sacrifice a gate because they got to make their cheese too. So I guess they'll get a lot.
He's an American though.
Yeah,
he's going to do it for the country. That's what I have confidence in.
I was pumped about the card to start, but just to think that they're pulling out all the stops, that Oval Office thing is different. That's like hollowed ground for them to let them back there.
Oh my gosh. People are going to freak out too. The other side, the left, is going to go absolutely nuts.
It's part of the show.
Desecrating this.
100%.
And they're going to love it. They're going to revel in it.
Yeah.
The scenes that are going to be there.
Definitely.
All right. Last thing I want to get to, because this is pretty fun. This is something that went viral with the Atlanta Falcons kicker.
This was great.
Who, kicks, what is he? The 2 field goals, a game winner.
Yeah, I think he kicked 3, actually, 5 days after getting signed.
5 days after getting signed. Melissa Stark is doing the post-game interview after, congratulating him, asking on the kick, and this exchange is absolutely hilarious. Do we have it, Julius?
You found out yesterday morning that you were making this trip. You told me before the game that it's always nerve-wracking, but you were a perfect 5 for 5 on field goals. It wasn't that nerve-wracking, was it? Where did the confidence come from?
The first one was definitely nerve-wracking. First off, I want to say, I'm truly grateful for the Minnesota Vikings for taking me in last year. And it's God's timing that I'm here back on the field. It's God's timing. That's all it is. And I'm just blessed, and we're going to take it and run with it, 24-hour rule, and let's keep going.
And I know you're learning your teammates' names. You know their names, right?
I know Bijan.
This is Leonard Floyd over here. You guys want it? Nice to meet you. Back to you guys.
Man, 10 years in the league
is so great.
Yeah.
We shortchanged him.
Yeah.
5 for 5 in the game. And when he said, I want to thank the Vikings, that's who the kicks were against.
Of course.
That's unbelievable. But it is, I don't know if anybody realizes how commonplace this is throughout the course of an NFL season when the bottom probably 4 or 5 roster spots are constantly churning
Shuffling always.
due to injuries or the
Tryout
kickers
Mondays.
have been awful. Yeah, tryout Mondays when I had to take part in a lot of those.
That was the worst feeling.
Just totally dejected when it got the workout, then you didn't get signed. But how hilarious is that? Because I 100%, that is not an act.
Nope.
That is 100% nice to meet you, Leonard Floyd. I didn't see you at all at practice this week. I was over on the practice field working on my kicks. Unbelievable.
We didn't have nothing to say to each other in the locker room. Might have passed each other a couple times in the cafeteria, but no conversations. And now that's exactly how it is. He's absolutely right, though. That is a ton of pressure. Like it's kind of looked at like an easy position because physically you're not really required to do a ton. But these guys don't know you. They have no allegiance to you. They have no love for you. You come in and you bomb the first game, it's a wrap. But it was cool to see him really thrive and hopefully sticks around for a while. And that is a funny, organic NFL moment right there.
Love it. Let's do. Julius has a surprise for us.
Let's do it, Jules.
He has a clip that he wants us to react to organically. Let's see what he's come up with, what he's got
and
up his
Julius
sleeve.
doesn't do this much, so this should be interesting.
I know. Oh, I know who that is. Little Frank Caliendo.
Oh, that is Frankie Cal.
The
Is this
Mount
John
Rushmore of sandwiches, as told by Chris Berman.
We got to go way back. In my menu, in my head about what's the greatest sandwich. BLT. We're going to go BLT. Say what you will, but nobody circles the wagons like the BLT sandwich.
Adam Schefter putting a sandwich on Mount Rushmore.
According to my sources, at this particular time, it appears that a hot dog has been named a sandwich. And in this case, we are going to put the hot dog, a.k.a. sandwich, on the Mount Rushmore of sandwiches, and that is the way it's going to be.
Amazing. That is so
The
good.
third sandwich on Mount Rushmore, Stephen A. Smith.
I understand where you're coming from with some of these sandwiches, my friend. But I have to say, in perpetuity, I'm going to have to go with the corned beef on rye.
He almost is laughing.
It doesn't
He's trying
get
to
any
keep
better than that.
Corned beef on rye.
Stephen
A. Smith, Irish.
Low version
I
of Stephen A.
did quiet Stephen A.
You quiet Stephen A.
Stephen A. is the it's the thoughtful Stephen A. And like I talked to him a while ago.
Yes.
And I said, it seems like you're doing more. You know, when I like, you gonna run for president? I understand. That's an opportunity I might partake in. I see where things are going on every side. I just want to listen to people and understand where we need to go.
That was the version we got on PBD's podcast.
Yes.
Do me a favor.
That's incredible.
Listen, I get it. People need to be listened to, and I'm your guy.
The last sandwich on Mount Rushmore by future ESPN contracted employee Charles Barkley.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to go grilled cheese. It's simple. It's straight to the point. You're not going for clicks. We're just doing this for real.
Wow.
A lot of people go for clicks with a sandwich. We're not doing that. We're going for real. And I believe that it's simple. It's a little bit of butter, a little bit of cheese, some bread, and one of those shots, and that's not cheating.
That's amazing. That's incredible. That's
He's
incredible.
the GOAT.
It's him and Jay Farrow. I could watch these guys do these for hours.
Incredible. Imagine could go with ham. A lot of people are talking about the different types of deli meat. What I like to do is go to the deli, start choosing different meats on my own. I don't like a sandwich that's already prepared. I like to go find a low risk, high reward type of sandwich. At the end of the day, salami, doing a tremendous job, spicing up the Italian hoagie just a little bit, and you'd be hard pressed to tell me otherwise.
Perfect cadence, perfect inflection. That was excellent, Jules.
Do you know how hard that would be to bounce in and around? Like, it's one thing to have a pre-planned act, but he's throwing these names out. I've seen him do it. I wish we saw more Frank Caliendo. He used to be all over ESPN.
Yeah.
They used to use him on this. I think he started Fox, right, on their Sunday show.
I think so, yeah.
And then ESPN had him. He needs to be more readily available out there because he is one of the most talented guys. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, there are probably like 2 or 3 guys. I think Jay Farrow's hilarious at that. Aries Spears is pretty good at that, where these guys just do different people and they can bounce in and out of character. Insanely talented.
No doubt.
Insane. Great find, Jules.
Yeah, great find, Jules. Way to finish off the show with that one. That's a wrap for us. As always, you can find us on social media at Danny Kanell.
At Manno Steel on Instagram and Manno Steel 17 on Twitter. And guys, Manect does both. Manect does both. We talk about anything. Sports. We talk about media. We'll talk about training. We'll talk about his parenting.
Yeah, we'd love to connect.
Let's do it.
Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll see you next week.